It convinced a generation of liberal politicians they needed to deliver welfare and social reform, which is perhaps why we've never had a successful revolutionary movement in this country. So Seabohm Rowntree didn't only trump Galton, he trumped the Communist Manifesto as well.
But it wasn't all pubs and poverty for the Edwardian poor.
Any old iron, any old iron. You look neat, talk about the street. You look a dapper from your nepper to your feet.
At just this moment, a raucous form of working-class entertainment was forcing its way into the heart of Britain's cities.
Old iron.
It's hard to imagine the sights and sounds and smells of the old music hall. The stench of unwashed bodies and dirty clothes, the air thick with tobacco smoke from the pipes and the cigars that all the men would be smoking. A lot of the audience would be drinking quite heavily and eating during the act, so the performers had only a few seconds to grab the attention of the audience. And for those who failed, every town had a different tradition. At Glasgow and Newcastle, for instance, they threw steel rivets. In the East End of London, it was vegetables and trotter bones. You'd get dead cats and even dead dogs flying onto the stage. So you kind of paid to hold a note and tell a good joke.
But Britain had talent. Music hall was the popular telly of its day. Its songs, the chart toppers, its acts, the pop stars. And the biggest star of all was Marr Lloyd.
I never was the one to go and stint myself. If I like to sing, I like it, and that's enough. But there's lots of people say...
Born in poverty in London's East End, Marr Lloyd was loved for her working-class cheek and wit. Her act was mostly sentimental songs, but her bawdy delivery was her trademark.
When the London County Council launched a major investigation into smut in the Variety Theatre, Marr Lloyd was summoned to explain herself. And she stood in front of the committee and sang 3 of her most notorious songs, but with a completely straight, butter wouldn't melt innocence that had them totally confused, didn't see anything wrong there at all. And then she chose a song their daughters would have known. Tennyson's Come Into the Garden Moored, about as proper as you could get, but she sung it with such filthy suggestiveness that they were soon pink and squirming with embarrassment. And it said she just looked them in the eye and laughed and walked off.
Come into the garden moored, for the black that night has flown.
But this rip-roaring, working-class entertainment was now finding a new upmarket audience. Lavish new music halls were being built all over Britain. And on Christmas Eve, 1904, the grandest music hall of all was opened. This was the most magnificent theatre in London, complete with restaurants, writing rooms, lounges, free telephones, and the first lifts to appear in any European theatre. A train ran from the lobby to the royal box, and an electric globe topped the building, spinning in the night sky. The Colosseum was the brainchild of a showman called Oswald Stoll, who'd been managing music halls from the age of 14. From humble beginnings in Liverpool, Stoll had built up a music hall empire. The Colosseum was his crowning glory.
Oswald Stoll was a shrewd businessman who wanted the middle classes to visit the Colosseum without fear of offence. So he decided to tame music hall, censoring the songs and the patter of the performers before they got on stage. he put up signs in the Colosseum dressing room saying, "Please do not use any strong language here." One disgruntled artiste said to him, "Mr. Stoll, you shouldn't be manager of a music hall, you should be a bishop."
Stuffy old Stoll was invited to stage the first ever Royal Command performance. This would be his finest hour. Stoll flooded the auditorium with 3 million roses, and a flock of royals, aristocrats and starchy hangers-on descended on the theatre for the social event of the season, the performance of the century.
And yet, when it came to it, the whole evening was curiously flat. Something to do, perhaps, with the non-appearance of the only real superstar of music hall, Murray Lloyd. Stoll had decided that she was a bit vulgar for monarchy, and he'd kept her off the bill. Murray Lloyd was livid. Did she get her revenge, ladies and gentlemen? She got her revenge. She hired another theatre just down the road and filled it all for herself, and belted out and sashayed her way through one hit after another until the audience was roaring and stomping for more. And on the placards outside her theatre, it read, "Every performance by Murray Lloyd is a command performance, by order of the British public." Now, that was the spirit of music hall.
All over Britain, salty little waves of democracy were beginning to wash around the old order. But the aristocracy carried on regardless, at its most expansively self-indulgent. At the centre of the party was the most decadent monarch of the 20th century, Edward VII, a sleepy-eyed, avocado-shaped man known as Bertie. His mother had believed in a life of duty and propriety. Edward was more interested in indulgence of all kinds.
For the king and his court, the Edwardian menu involved an astonishing amount of food. Breakfast, a light meal. Bacon, eggs, sausage, kippers, kedgeree, porridge. And then for Edward, lobster salad or a cold chicken would be a mere snack to prepare him for lunch. Never fewer than 8 courses. Welcome respite then until tea. Cold meat, sandwiches, macaroons, scones, cakes of all kinds. A welcome respite then before the main event, dinner. Even without any guests, the court would expect 12 courses before a final manful waddle to supper. Cold meat, sandwiches, more cakes and cheese, and another day of remarkable achievement.
Despite their excesses, royalty and the aristocracy were still treated with automatic deference and respect. And the power of heredity still ruled in government. When Robert, Lord Salisbury, retired as Prime Minister in 1902, his fellow aristocrats in government selected his nephew, Arthur Balfour, as the new leader of the Tory party and Prime Minister.
Even then, there was serious muttering about an act of such gross patronage. It's said that's where we get the phrase, "Bob's your uncle" from. And certainly Arthur Balfour wasn't an obvious national leader. He was known for his high intellect, his delicate appearance, his love of velvet and blue china,